So we'll have to make sure to get you over to Los Angeles, okay?
Let's do it.
Enough of, she's been in London, she's been to the Caribbeans?
The Caribbean.
Caribbeans, but I know your heart lies in LA.
It does really, and I've got family here as well.
Right, right.
Which, you know, it always draws on the heart.
Right, and I'll make sure to give her such a good time that she won't want to leave.
We've already been shopping. We got that done first of all, didn't we?
Almost missed the show,
I know.
but that's okay. That's okay. So today, we're still in the holiday season, so I thought we would continue the holiday theme of spoiler alert, narcissists and the holidays. It's got to be all about them. So we're going to talk a lot more about narcissism and how they are spoilers. So be alerted that they are spoilers of holidays because, well, I think you know the answer, that it's always about
them.
Always about them. Okay, so the thing with holidays is it's supposed to be about caring and sharing and reciprocal gift giving and receiving is the way it's supposed to go. Mutuality. Remember panel 7, for those of you who know my mind map, panel 7 is the synergy panel. 1 + 1 is greater than 2, and then there's light in the center. And if you want to call that the holiday light, Christmas lights, Hanukkah lights, whatever kind of lights you want to call it. With narcissists, there's only one kind of light, and they are the light. But they also are only the light for a second because they need to drain you of your light to be lit up. So, did that say it?
I think you're right. Yes, you kind of shone a spotlight on it. Yes, on the basics of it.
I shined a spotlight on it. So, Christiana, you work a lot with the narcissists and the mind map, and she's been a really integral part of the team. And of course, everybody knows this is a call-in show, so please do feel free to call in and share about the holidays. And one of the reasons I like to do these shows is because holidays bring up a lot of feelings. They bring up feelings of I'm not good enough and I don't deserve. And then they also bring up feelings of entitlement in the case of narcissists. So let's talk about what kinds of feelings are brought up, what kinds of horrible negative core beliefs are activated when the great holidays are upon us and we idealize and we want warm, cozy, family, loving, caring, and sometimes we don't have that around us, or sometimes we think we do, but then there's somebody that comes to a holiday party and just steals the spotlight. So, Christiana, can you think of maybe an example or two of even make up a story about what it would look like to feast with a narcissist? Let's talk about an overt narcissist versus a covert narcissist. So, you're at a dinner, okay, and you're all dressed and looking pretty, and everybody else is coming in and chatting it up and asking normal things like, how are you, Christiana? How's life going? And then dun, 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 you encounter the narcissist, and what does he or she say?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? You know, with a narcissistic type or a narcissistic personality, just the mere presence in the room changes the atmosphere completely. You can just sense it. And when we're looking at sort of the holiday season and everyone's saying, "Oh, happy holiday," when you have a narcissistic type in your life, it's more of a question
Happy holiday?
Is it going to be a happy holiday?
I'm
not 100% sure, to be honest.
Okay.
And that's the thing about it. With narcissists, you're never... it can be predictable, but it's also unpredictable. It's uncertain with narcissistic types. You're never sure, are they going to come in and, from the start, maybe love bomb you? Or are they going to come in and exclude you? Or, you know what I mean? So
yes,
when we talk about the holiday time, holiday season, Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever, and there's gathering of people together, many of my clients are, it's a time of great stress.
Yes.
It's an uncertain time, and it's filled with often a great pressure to try to take responsibility for making it the best possible, given the fact that there's a narcissistic person in their lives.
Yes. So look, a holiday by definition is somewhat of an idea, supposed to represent an ideal concept or an
time
ideal
of
family
recuperation,
situation.
isn't it? And time of rest, and it's a holiday. It's happy. It's a bit of a celebration. It's time out from your normal work life, something to look forward to. But often it can be more stressful than work for some people,
so, especially for the hostess, right? They have a lot of putting it together. But I think if we look at it from the dynamics of them vampiring the light out of the holidays, this image crossed my mind. You've got these Hanukkah candles lit, and the narcissist walks in and just kind of like the light blows out, or the Christmas lights suddenly go dark. Okay, somebody should make a cartoon out of this, right? But I'm using it obviously as a metaphor for how they suck the light. But sometimes they do it in a very subtle way. Like they might say something like, "Oh, so Christiana, so how was your day?" And then you'll start talking. Go ahead.
No, it's been great. Thanks for
asking. Oh my God, you're not going to believe what happened to me today.
Yes, they're not really wanting to know about you at all or connect with you at all.
Not really, but they do use you as a segue. So you will, for maybe an instance, think that they really want to know about you.
Yeah. And my area of specialism, as you know, Dr. Judy, is the narcissistic family system. And, it's interesting when we look at that, whether you've got an overt narcissistic parent or you have a covert narcissistic parent, or you have both sometimes if you're extremely lucky.
Extremely gifted, right?
Yes. And, if I always think of it like this, if you've got a covert parent, they are going to control you at Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever the celebration is, by making you feel that you run the risk of spoiling it for them. Okay. But if you have an overt parent, it's almost as if you're afraid of them spoiling it for you and everyone, because the overt is more about sort of stamping their dominance over everything, maybe telling inappropriate jokes or kind of bringing the whole mood. I don't know. It's that sort of dynamic. So the spoiling is
go back to the covert for a minute. That they set it up so that you're in danger of spoiling it for them. And they'll do that with little hints that you might be in order to get you to conform to what they want or to see them as the victim. So it might be like if you have a covert mother, say, she might be saying things like, don't you want this pie that I've made? Because I made it specially for you, and everyone likes this. Oh, you're not having it? Oh, well, I'm going to have some. Oh, even if you're not, it's that kind of. Or
she may sort of say something along the lines of, you know, oh, I've had to do so much, you know, I've had the cooking, I've had the this, I've had the that, and you know, it's that sort of victim presentation, how much I'm having to do for all of you, which is a means of generating guilt, isn't it? And getting people to jump in and feel sorry.
So it's a different way of asserting power.
Yes,
right.
Absolutely.
The overt would be asserting power by basically dominating the party.
Yeah. Or, you know, something like, I had one client who'd always tell me about, you know, when they were children, her and her siblings would get up really early in the morning to go and open their Christmas presents.
Okay.
And, you know, the mum would get up as well and come and sit with the children, but they'd have to wait till the overt father got up, but he would make sure that he made them wait. So he'd take his time. It was on his schedule. It's sort of this subtle way of just being in control of the proceedings.
Of the proceedings.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, that would be more the overt. Or another example, I've had a client who recalled, a male client who said, you know, like, he can remember at one point getting a remote control car for Christmas, and he was delighted to get this, but his overt father was so controlling that what he did was he before my client could open it and play with it, he snatched it from the client, opened it, did whatever was needed to assemble it. And then instead of kind of showing his son how to use it and, oh, you have a go now, no, the father, you know, took it off for half an hour.
Really?
Playing on, and then was, you know, this is how you do it, but wouldn't give the son the opportunity to try it. And it was his present. So it's almost like...
So let's put it in the context of what we usually talk about, which is wounds of childhood and the hole in the soul and what the Freud is going on, that an adult father would snatch the toy from the baby, put it together, and not just say, hey, you know, it's all ready to go for you, sweetie. Go at it.
You go and try now,
Right, but that's not the case, because they need to satisfy their own. It's, again, you know, redirected back to me. And when it's me-oriented, there's no real sharing, there's no real caring, there's no good feeling.
No, it's not at all. And it's interesting because, you know, when you have a narcissistic parent, like you were saying, you know, these celebrations are about them. Although we say, you know, these celebrations really are about the children, isn't it? You know, and giving them a wonderful experience. Well, it's not so much when you have a narcissistic parent or partner. It's about them. And satisfying their expectations.
I think we're getting a question here. Okay, thanks for that. Let me read that out loud. What's a good way to shut down someone when they're asking about your family, and you don't want to get personal because you've got no contact, so I'm assuming it's a scenario where they're somewhere and there's all these family members or friends around, and they say, so how's your family doing?
Yes.
And it's embarrassing to say, well, I've got no contact, because that opens up a whole thing that people don't usually want to talk about, like, oh, what happened? Oh my God, your mother was the sweetest. Oh my, your father is the pillar of the community. What do you mean you're not talking to your father? Okay, so you don't want to open that up. So, Christiana, any suggestions on how to?
Yeah, it's not an easy one, is it? Because the expectation is, you know, that everybody's getting together with their family, and you know, that it's going to be a celebration as a family unit. But when you don't have that luxury, should I say?
Thank you.
it's not easy when people are asking you those pointed questions about your family. And I think the thing is, when you have a narcissistic parent, there is a bit of shame about it.
Yeah.
You know, you have had to take steps to care for yourself. So the way I might answer something like that.
Yeah, how would you answer if you were no contact and somebody said, oh, so where's your mom? Where's your dad?
I would answer them. I might not say anything about no contact unless they pointedly asked it. I would just say, oh, mum's, she's doing her own thing this year, and speak about it confidently. The situation is this year we're each doing our own thing, and not give too much information. You don't have to, explain and justify. You're at liberty to just, give a little hint of what you're actually doing, but without going into great detail or explanation about it.
Well, I think it's nice to be open, because then people, if you say, well, none of your business, that's not really a great answer, because it's too cold, right?
Yeah.
It's colder than the cold turkey that you've left on the table for too long. So not going to work. But I like your answer, that you're giving them an answer, but it's general. It's like, okay, they chose to do their own thing, and then you move to a different topic. You've given them enough.
And even put it in a positive light, almost say, oh, it's going to be really great this year. We're each doing our own thing for a change. It gives me the chance to, I don't know.
Connect with you.
Yeah, there we go. Exactly, yes. There we go.
Right?
Good one. Yeah.
Right? But I think you're right. It brings a lot of shame, because unless you're really, really clear and you've been supported in your decision, you're going to start wondering, what's wrong with me that I can't get along with my mother, that I can't get along with my father? Because don't forget that narcissistic parents leave us with some pretty damaging core beliefs. And first of all, I want to go back over what is narcissism. From a mind map perspective, narcissism is a system gone wrong where the parents put their own needs before the needs of their children. And so it flips the system. It could even take the form of a parentified child, where the child is giving and advising and caring for, and the parent is basically receiving and not really taking a parental role in the family system. Okay, so that's the definition that I can come up with that speaks to the system gone wrong, because I like to think of this as a family system gone wrong. So when parents do this over many years, then and you're familiar with this because you hear this in your treatment room or your treatment Zoom, right? Core beliefs. So if a parent makes themselves number one, if the parent demeans, devalues, discards you for times when you're not fulfilling their needs, when they're trying to control you and you're not listening to their controlling advice, and then you get punished for it, then over time you develop negative core beliefs. Now, there's an era before words called the pre-verbal era, where you're not really getting verbal messages because you're too young. Maybe you're 6 months old, a year old. So the words are not really the primary communication, but maybe the communication is that they don't really have time to hold you. They don't eye contact you. They don't breastfeed you. They don't give you the skin contact. They don't give you the consistency. So it's or that you get played with, but then you get tossed aside when they've had enough entertainment. Okay, so maybe you could speak a little bit to what kinds of core beliefs these messages leave children with.
One of the most common ones, I'd say especially with a covert narcissistic parent, is that I'm a disappointment. Because, nothing that you do is ever good enough, really.
Yeah.
Sometimes it might seem like you've hit the jackpot and you've done something really pleasing, and then that keeps you trying harder and harder all the time to be more and more pleasing. So that's a key one, and clients find that plays out in their adult lives, especially at work, in friendship groups.
Yes.
This constant sort of monitoring other people's reactions, non-verbal communication cues, to see, am I being pleasing here? Am I acceptable?
Okay, so let's translate that to the holiday party. Okay, so now you're at the holiday party and you're walking around with core beliefs, perhaps even sitting next to a parent that left you with these core beliefs, and somehow other people's presents seem bigger and brighter and more expensive or more creative, or other people's outfits are amazing, or their stories about their progress in life seem so much better than yours. So what childhood wounds are going to be ripped open?
Well, that's another negative core belief there that runs strong, is that I'm inadequate.
I'm inadequate.
The narcissistic parent will make the child feel like they're not adequate in their own gender, in their peer group, and in society. And that's their way of sort of one-upping you. And then, of course, when you're an adult and you're in your peer group, you still have that negative core belief running the show, going, you don't fit in, why did you buy that? Look what you're wearing. You've got all of that.
You're never
going
good
on,
enough.
Never good enough.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. So imagine when you sit down to a family dinner party or occasion, not only are you bringing your gifts and your presents, but you're also bringing with you old childhood wounds that get activated and detonated. And you've got to take into consideration that if you haven't healed these wounds, then you're going to be sitting here not only marinating in gravy, right, but marinating in horrible core beliefs that are going to leave you feeling depressed, anxious, less than.
And also unable to escape your family system.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And I think that's part of why sometimes we have to go no contact, at least for some time period. Anyway, that's what I suggest to clients if they have come from quite a toxic system. Because it's like the parents otherwise expect you to come to these family gatherings, but the reason is that they're almost stamping upon you that you can never escape, that you belong to us, you belong to me, and therefore you're obligated to be here on this family occasion because this is your blood, and you have no choice.
And take what we dish out. Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
How you have no choice but to be here. But when clients do eventually go no contact, it's a really powerful thing, because they're stepping out of that and they're saying, no, I don't belong, and I'm not obliged to meet your expectations. The expectations of the family.
I was going to add to what you were saying. The difficulty with going no contact is that you're hoping that they're going to get the message that they've done something inappropriate.
Yes.
And a narcissist, because they do not self-reflect and self-correct, and that's a big one, they're not left with self-reflecting, like, what did I do to hurt him? What did I do to hurt her?
No.
Why are they not talking to me? So that's not the impression that they're left with. They will flip the system and blame it on you. Like, wow, you are so rude.
Exactly.
So disrespectful. And then they'll talk this up to the community, and before long you've got a bunch of flying monkeys, and you've got pressure on you to go back into the system because you're being hit now from different angles. And there's no enlightened witness there to say, wait a minute, you're not crazy. You've been made crazy. This is sick. This is not okay. Don't be there.
Exactly. And it, you know, part of that experience can feel a bit isolating at times. You know, you can feel like you can perhaps spend a Christmas on your own.
Yeah.
There's something that you have to face, and it's not a bad thing. You know, sometimes it's preferable to being in such a toxic environment. There's a lot of pressure societally that you know we should be with a family, and we should you know, be doing all the traditions and all that's expected societally. But do we really? You know, I don't think so. I think part of the becoming empowered is not only stepping away from your narcissistic family system, but perhaps the narcissistic societal system.
Well, then I might
you know.
we might have to just step out. Any good islands for sale anywhere? Maybe in the Caribbean?
Yeah, you never know.
Right? Right, but see, the thing is that in a narcissistic system, who's right and who's wrong, right? So the parents are right, the children are wrong. There's always a sense of, I'm doing something wrong. So by stepping out, it brings into question that I'm bad.
Yes.
I'm an abandoner. I'm betraying my family.
Exactly.
Even if you were betrayed yourself,
Yes.
even if you've been done wrong, doesn't matter. Once you, usually the people pleaser, okay? Usually somebody who wants to make extra effort to keep it together, doesn't have it in them to set that boundary.
No.
Too painful.
Exactly.
Too embarrassing.
Yes, yes. And, you know, I think the thing we have to remember is somebody doesn't really go no contact and avoid their family at a Hanukkah or Christmas without it being a big decision to make.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's not one you've taken lightly and just thought, oh, you know, stuff it, I'm not going to. It's something that you've had to actually make a decision about. And I find in my clients that most of them, their desire really is to be a wonderful daughter. It's to be a wonderful son, but they're just not able to do that because of the parent that they have, who's manipulating. And
there can't be two wonderfuls.
No.
So if they're a wonderful son, they can't be to a parent who has to be more wonderful than the wonderful son. And not a lot of space there.
Yeah.
So you're right. People don't just go no contact. And people ask me this all the time. Hey, should I go no contact? Like, I would say no contact is a last solution.
I agree. I think I do recommend
Not
it.
first.
No, only in cases of enmeshment. So when you have parentification or covert incest, those are the covert emotional incest. Those would be the situations where I would say, actually, it's almost required to break the psychological bond, which the toxic psychological.
So talk a little bit more about the parentified child, the enmeshed child. What happens in that system gone wrong, where it's so toxic that it doesn't allow for growth?
It's probably the worst kind of abuse in some ways. And I know, I mean, with respect to anyone who's been through other, severe types.
None of them are good.
None of them are.
Verbal abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, control, power, manipulation, narcissistic. I mean, none of them are good at all. Physical abuse, I think I mentioned.
Yes.
It's just that when a parent, right? Flips the system on the child.
Yeah.
Lacks empathy. Let's throw that in,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then now the child has to serve that parent. What happens to their childhood?
Well, that's the whole thing. You know, the parent does not, when there's enmeshment, you know, the parent does not allow the child to go through that healthy developmental stage where the child begins to separate from the parent. The parent thwarts that, and they do that by either smothering the child, you know, doing everything for them, not giving them the skills needed to become independent, or sort of fostering the emotional dependency. So by causing the child to doubt themselves all the time, and to have to turn to the parent to check, is that okay? Should I be thinking this? What should I do? What should I think? You know, when that's sort of fostered in the parent-child relationship, the child naturally becomes so dependent upon the parent that it's very difficult then later on to separate, because the parent makes the child the center of their world, but the child makes the parent the center of the world.
That's
and that
right.
sounds healthy, but not in this situation, because it's not the child is not a separate being to the mother or the parent that's enmeshing. It's usually the mother, to be honest. The child is an extension, so this is an object that the parent has a particular need for. They need you if you've been enmeshed, because without you, their world crumbles. And that's a huge burden for a child to bear. They can't bear it. That's where imposter syndrome comes from. You know, how am I supposed to cope with this? I don't have the skills. And no, you're not meant to as a child.
That's right. So these situations often appear in single-family households where dad is maybe gone, absent, either physically absent or just
can be
not psychologically present, where the mother, for example, might use the other child as a triangulated third wheel to fill in. And that's why I said in the case where the other party is not balanced. So, you know, in a balanced family, you have usually two parents, right? And they are on the same team, and they create a safe family system upon which the children can be contained, have rules and grow. But when one partner is missing, then and the other child, and the child gets sucked in to be the significant other.
Yes, exactly. It's you know, both. In fact, if there's two parents, both the parents are using the child, because the other parent uses the child to placate the mother or to soothe the mother as an emotional source for her, so that he doesn't have to. And that's, you know, the other parent's quite happy in a way for that to take place. But it also, both parents almost use the children as a means of causing jealousy in each other. So you find that, you know, the bond between the parent and the child is used to cause a jealousy in the other, and then the child's caught up in guilt. You know, I've got this attention, but you know.
Now let's bring it back to the holiday, right? So now we're back at the table again, and we've got these dynamics, and the siblings are competing. Why? Because the parents set them up to rival. Exactly. So one is the golden child, and the other one is the scapegoat, and the other one might be, the mascot, trying to make things light and funny. And so during these holidays, these roles may pop up at the party, right? Where mom or dad or somebody is talking exclusively about one of their daughters at the exclusion of another daughter. Okay, and then there it goes again. We've got the Freud playing out right in front of the the family's eyes. And so the other person not only has been tortured all their life with being the scapegoat, but now she's at the party and the mother's bragging about her daughter's new job, and the other daughter's just sitting there in silence and misery.
Or you could sometimes the roles are a bit clear when there's gift giving.
Yeah,
you know, so like
right.
You might be given sort of a present that represents your parents' idealized version of themselves. If you're the golden child, you know, or the latest trendy thing that everybody else is doing, they'll give that to the golden child. But then for the scapegoat, it might be, I don't know, an item
gift? No.
an item of clothing maybe 2 sizes too big, or something that's, I don't know, not particular to them at all. Or
I think you bring up a good point. Sometimes gifts could be pokes.
Yes,
right.
Almost a bit of a jab, like you say.
Right, a little jab, like, oh, I got you a tummy exercise machine.
I know. So that's what I mean. Yeah. Bit of a covert message somewhere in there.
Oh yeah, well, you know, the whole package of Jenny
the best for
Craig
you,
or
darling,
something,
yes.
you know. while at the same time, the poor kid, now an adult, has been told, you know, Mary, you're way too fat. Mary, I'm sorry, but you know, why don't you look a little bit more like your sister, or eat more like your sister? So it becomes pretty messy. And by the way, this is a call-in show, and we love to talk to each other, but we really would love to talk to you and hear from you and find out what challenges you are having during your holiday season. And where are we now? What, the 21st? So we're just a handful of days away from Christmas and New Year's, and holiday parties and so on and so forth. And so we want to hear from you. What are some of your challenges? What are some of your fears? Maybe we should start putting together a little survival kit for people.
Great idea.
Okay, so maybe you and I can free associate, as Freud likes to say.
We'll do it a coffee after this.
A little survival kit. Okay, so I'll throw in the first suggestion. Sit strategically next to people who are loving and more nurturing and less narcissistic. So if you've got to stay away, then do it. Take some distance and make sure your seating arrangement is such that you don't have to sit next to somebody that's going to try to hurt your feelings. That's my suggestion number 1. Be strategic. Your turn, Christiana.
I would say
we're playing the how to go into the situation and survive and not get the spoiler. Spoiler alert.
Not have it
prevention
spoiled for you. Yes.
Exactly.
I would say that you need to keep reminding yourself that you're not responsible for anybody else's feelings. So if the narcissist looks a bit annoyed with you or doesn't like what you've said, or you can let them have their little tantrum and not try to jump in and make it all right, because you're not responsible for the happy holiday.
All right, I'll add to that. Keep it pH neutral. So talk about things other than feelings. Oh, the salad is delicious. So let's say somebody says, oh my God, I got this amazing job promotion. So let me ask you, did you get fired from your job after all? Okay, so you see, I'm being a little facetious, but this does happen. where they will elevate themselves and then put you in a position where they're going to shame you, where they're hoping to roast you up a little bit. So you could just divert the topic and just say, oh, wait a minute. Oh my goodness, did you see those green beans? They're amazing.
Yes.
I've never seen green beans with cranberries before. Okay, so I think that if they're going to be ballsy enough, okay, to put you in that position, there's nothing wrong with diversion.
I agree.
Just let it flow in a different direction.
And there's nothing wrong either, sort of calling it out a bit sometimes. I mean, if somebody says a joke and it's directed at you, or makes a comment that's not particularly very nice directed towards you, you can sort of call it out and say, oh, it's not a bit of projection going on here, is there? Do you know what I mean? Just as a question.
Well, I don't mind calling it out as long as you're prepared to.
Well, that's the thing.
Get their wrath, because if you call them out, remember, they do not like to be spotlighted on their failings. Correct? So you're going to be walking into a precarious situation.
And sometimes it's done on purpose in order to get you to. It's like a baiting of you.
Correct.
I'm going to get a reaction from this person. That's what I want, so that it can escalate.
So the way to avoid your reactivity, which is panel 2, let's maybe put the mind map up there again so people can understand how to play a better game of life. So if you see panel 1, wounds of childhood, these are the wounds that were laid down: the physical, emotional, sexual, verbal abuse, power and control, the wound of apathy, which I like to call the narcissistic abuse. So you don't want to get into your amygdala, your emotional brain, and narcissists like to fire up your amygdala. So you want to make sure that maybe you're walking in there a little bit more zen than usual. Perhaps you've worked out, or you've taken some kind of a meditation class, or you walk in there with a really dear friend who you feel really has your back. Alcohol, okay? Alcohol can do one of two things. It could dial down your reactivity, or it could lessen your resolve, and then it'll open your mouth a little bit too wide and be in trouble with somebody that's looking like they're not sensitive, but narcissists are very sensitive. They could dish it out, but they can't take it. So I advise really watching the alcohol and the drugs during this season, because you don't want to be in a reactive state, and drugs will definitely lessen your resolve.
Absolutely. Yeah, you need to, I would suggest also, limit the time, if you can, that you're going to spend in these situations. Nice. If you know it's going to be triggering.
Okay.
As a means of self-care, if you just before the event think to yourself, okay, how do I feel about 2 hours? Does that feel too long, or does it feel? And just find what your gut tells you. What you can manage this year. What can you manage?
And you can also take a lot of breaks. If you don't feel well, then go to the bathroom, get outside, take a little breath of fresh air. Okay, another question from Purple Turtle. Okay, how do I deal with annual Christmas card from no contact covert narcissist mom? Okay. Tempted to return to sender, but don't want to fuel narc. I do not open it. Okay, so if your narc mother has gone over the top and just there's no point of return, I don't think it's necessary to return to sender and shove it back. I think it's a little aggressive, there's no need.
The thing is,
what do you think, Christiana?
Just to the viewer and your question, it sounds that you are handling it at the moment, and the way that you're handling it is not to open it. But am I right in picking up that you don't feel comfortable with that? You're wanting to know, wanting to do something more, and perhaps if you're not comfortable with not opening it, then you might need to go back and think about what other options are available. One of them is to send it back, but will that bring you the sort of relief or the whatever it is you're looking for by doing so? Maybe just take some time to really unpack what it is that you feel uncomfortable about in the situation as it is.
And it's a hard question to answer because we don't know why you've gone no contact. Is your covert narc mother trying to bait you? Is she trying to reel you back in? Is she just feeling her own hole in the soul during the holidays and she wants a little contact? If it's not horribly offensive, then you send back a generic card that is not very phony. Okay, just wishing you well, happy holidays.
I understand this situation though, because it feels like a bit of a boundary violation. You've gone no contact, and I presume that you've probably told your parent that that's what you're doing, and yet they're still sending you. They're still somehow feeling that they're able to enter into your world. So maybe it just means that there might need to be a further communication with your parent. Look, Mum, Dad, I don't want any cards from now on. I need this break from you so that I can heal. So please do not be sending any cards from now on. And if you do, I will be returning them to you.
And yes, trying to bait me. Oh, I am not going back ever. No chance at all, and she knows it. Okay, so look, I'm going to err on the side of conservative. Okay, so you don't ever have to go back. You never have to go back. Would it harm you? Would you feel out of integrity to yourself if you just wrote back happy holidays and that's it? So in other words, you just handle it as pH neutral as possible without it opening up the relationship. Just like, hi, happy holidays.
I think, Dr. Judy, I think we can get to that stage down the line a bit, but I'm thinking this person feels like they're quite clear that they don't want any contact, and anything is a bit baiting, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
So I would suggest the only two options here would be, three maybe, to keep things as they are and just be aware of the feeling that this is a boundary violation, because it is, and that's okay. You're right about that. Number two, you can send it back and be aggressive yourself as a response. Or number three, and this might be, I would suggest a good option, is to reinstate the boundary somehow. Either it's by a letter back yourself, or it's a text message, or some means of just recommunicating that you don't want any mail contact, texting, and be specific.
Well, look, if it's down to such a black and white line, then I'm presuming that your mother must have done something very, very violating. Okay, so let's pretend it's not your mother, because it sounds like she's lost her privilege with you of being the mother. So let's say somebody stole a bunch of money from you and now they're sending you a Christmas card. Then you're thinking, they don't even deserve the time of day. they haven't apologized for it. They haven't paid me back. So what would you do in that case? Okay, somebody just stole a bunch of money from you, and now they're sending you a card. What do you do?
What an interesting example.
I
know. What would I do if someone's just stolen money from me?
And they're sending you, in other words, they've done evil, and now they're trying to do something that appears
kind
and loving and holiday-ish.
Well,
what do you do?
I wouldn't offer any further communication. I'd probably just, like this client has done, not open the card. And
okay, maybe that.
Yeah.
Maybe that. Right.
But when it is a family member, maybe it's a bit different in some ways to a complete
I mean,
stranger.
I'm just, listen, I don't know the situation, but I'm presuming that this mother has done something so outlandish that Blue Turtle wants nothing further to do with Mommy Dearest. So then why don't you just have, if it's that bad, just have nothing further to do. But I wouldn't put insult to injury.
No.
That's it.
No.
You won't have to send it back, but you could just let it go.
Yeah.
I hope that helps. Any other questions in the chat room? No? Okay, any other thoughts?
Yeah, I hope the viewers will have their own expectations for enjoying Christmas this year, or Hanukkah, or whatever holiday you're having. Maybe take some time to ask, what would make this special for me, or what do I need this year, and then make sure you put that as your top priority, and not be feeling obliged to make it a happy holiday for anybody else, really.
Well, I think that really says everything, because narcissism is about putting the narcissist needs first. So it's okay to put your needs ahead of the narcissist. And if you don't want to invite somebody to your holiday party, you do not have to. I do get it if it's a family member, and in which case you can employ one of our strategies. But you're not obligated to invite people that don't enhance your light, because my model for healthy relationship is panel 7, which is also my logo, which is also the paradigm shift, which is also a metaphor for synergy. 1 + 1 is greater than 2. So seek out people who enhance you, seek out people who bring out the light, seek out growth partners, seek out people who are happy for your happiness, will have your back when you're not that happy, and that's how you play the bigger game of life. So I'm so happy that you made it to the studio live, and that we're going to spend a couple of days chatting it up, planning shows, and just enjoying ourselves. And I want to wish everyone a very, very happy holiday season. Remember that as you get healthier, you may find that people appear not as healthy as you thought. You will have more indicators of narcissism and rude behavior and so on. And so listen to your gut, get psychoeducation, get psychoeducated, and do your healing, because the more you heal, the less vulnerable you will be to narcissistic abuse. And please do check out my video, Healing from Narcissistic Abuse. It's on my website, psychologicalhealingcenter.com, and you can do this entire process with me, with Christiana, with whoever you want on the team. You can do the video if you don't want to do individual services, but just take the time to heal yourself, because the more unhealed you are, the more vulnerable you are, and the more those core beliefs will fire off, and then your holiday party will be ruined, because you'll feel sick at every twist and turn. So thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. And happy holidays, everyone, and feel free to reach out. And Christiana is happy to also give free consultations, so be in touch. See you next year, everyone. Happy holidays, Happy New Year.
Happy holidays.